يا ربي يا ربي إني أسألك العفو عني.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulil Kareem amma ba'd. So Muslim Metaphysician, he has made a major blunder. He has said a statement of Kufr, statement of disbelief, which usually would take a person out of the fold of Islam. However, this is not my job to determine whether a person is a kafir or not. That's the job of the scholars. But for me, the Prophet Muhammad told us, if you see evil, you stop it. You're supposed to try to stop it with your hands. Kama qala salatu wassalam. Okay, so we're supposed to try to stop it with our hands, and if we can't, then we speak out against it, and if we can't do that, then we hate it in our hearts. So these are the 3 steps that are recommended in the Deen when we see something evil. So I'm acting upon 2 of these right now, because with the hand I can't stop it with the hand. So I'm acting upon speaking out against it. I'm also hating such an ideology. So I've highlighted before in one of my shorts, Muslim Metaphysician Shaykh, he has made a great blunder. He has committed, he has said a statement of kufr. Okay, and what he said was, within Allah's essence, there can be a beginning, there can be a starting. Okay, there can be something that's beginning. He has mentioned this in very clear terms. I've also made a short, like a YouTube short, which actually goes into some of these details. However, today what I'm going to do, I'm going to expound on that. I'm going to go into some details, and primarily what I'll do is I'm going to use Shaykh Hatem al-Hajj, who is the representative of Ibn Taymiyyah's view. And because Jake and Rahman, these both came together, they made a video about there being a change within Allah, and there being something beginning within Allah. Because anything that's beginning, that's the entailment of change. So if something starts, that's change from non-existence to existence. That's a change. Okay. So when these guys are saying that within Allah there's something that's starting, there's a beginning within Allah, then that's from non-existence to existence. That's a change. So they're saying that there's a change within Allah. These are the entailments. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, we don't believe this. We believe Allah is eternal, and Allah does not change. When it comes to Allah, He doesn't change, because He's a being that has always been there. He's perfect in how He is, and there's no change within Allah. That's what the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah believe. Because anything that is subject to change, if a being is subject to change, then he is the creation, because it's the creation that is subject to change. Okay, so now what we'll do is we're going to use someone who represents Ibn Taymiyyah's view, the Salafi view, and we're going to show you this view, and then we're going to show you how even from his own paradigm, even from his own framework of Salafism and Ibn Taymiyyah, following of Ibn Taymiyyah, his own scholar who he actually respects, and we actually spoken to him. Well, I spoken to him privately and messaged him. Initially, my intention was to make him retract this, because he's not retracting this himself. And I've also approached Abdul Rahman as well to make them both retract this to their audience, because the audience are more receptive to hear from their own people than someone who's the opposition. So I'll be opposition to them, because I'm pretty much going against him, and or we have certain ideological differences. So the audience will be more receptive to hear from him and accept it. Whereas that's the reason I approached Abdul Rahman from Taught Adventure podcast, because he also was in the same video where they were promoting this. And I've also approached Muslim Metaphysician, and these both were together when they made the video. Unfortunately, both of them, they're not open to retractions. So they both have decided not to make retractions, in a nutshell. I won't go into the details, but they both said no, pretty much. They said we're not going to retract from this. So therefore, Let's go through some of the statements of Shaykh Hatem al-Hajj, who's supposed to be their teacher, who's refuting them. They're refuting their ideology. Okay, so let's go step by step. The first thing, Shaykh Hatem al-Hajj, actually before that, I'll show you his post. So you can find his post in the link. I'll put in the comments, and I'll attach this link where you can find this post where he goes into some detail. The second thing he does is he's also doing a longer article on this as well. You can find this. I read through all of this after before even making this video. So I've read through all of this, and I've also read the first Facebook post. Now let's go through some of the statements. So firstly, Shaykh Hatem al-Hajj says every occurrence of thumma thereafter in the Quran, when related to the God's actions, underlines this belief. Okay, so he's saying basically when thumma is used in the Quran, it's related to God's actions. Linguistic examinations of thumma might not counter this viewpoint, given its undeniable contextual use to suggest sequential events which cannot be separated from their creator's creation. So he's making it very clear that sequence is actually attributed to the creation, because he says the creator's creation. It cannot be separated from the creator's creation. Okay, so he's attribute this to basically the creation. Now the second thing, he says, as detailed in the reference book, I emphasize a few crucial points. He says, we do not propose any change in Allah's essence. Straight away, this goes against what Muslim Metaphysician has been saying. He's saying that there's something starting within Allah. From non-existence to existence, these are two changes. He's saying from within Allah, there's something that begins. So from non-existence to something beginning, that's a change. So here, his own scholar, his person who he looks up to, he actually reads his post, he actually refutes him. We don't propose any change in God's essence. So this refutes it. For such an idea, now look what his own scholar is saying. Such an idea would be discordant with the nature of the eternal. So discordant means, something that disagrees with, So if you look at the meaning of discordant, it means disagrees. I'm sure some people might not know that meaning. Even I have to look it up, just so I know what exactly it means. So we're on the same page. So we don't propose any change in God's essence, for such an idea would disagree, so that this is a synonym of it, or the meaning of it, with the nature of the eternal. It will disagree with the nature of the eternal. So Allah's eternal, by him having any change within him, that would contradict eternality. This is what his own scholars say. Then he says, our stance is to acknowledge his actions as he has delineated it. So he goes into detail how we should approach it. But then he says, none of this means a change of his essence. There is no need to use such language. And even he says, there's no need to use such language as emergent events subsist in him. Okay, so he goes, there's no need to even use this. And actually, Jake actually used a similar wording. He said, Hawadith fi dhatillah. So there's the beginning within Allah. So there's new things are happening within Allah. Now, this is, as I've highlighted, this is kufr. This is disbelief, and it contradicts his own Shaykh, basically. And it contradicts his own framework. Because he's Shaykh Hatem is actually representing their framework. Okay, so now let's go to the next statement. So here Shaykh Hatem says activity would necessarily mean change in the condition of the agent if he had to conform to the matter he's creating or reforming, or to exert effort to execute his volitions. Activity, so in a nutshell, he's saying that so Hatem again emphasizes that the agents Allah agents, when he's saying agents, he's referring to Allah. He's saying conformity to the matter would mean change in the condition of the agent Allah. Here he's saying that if he had to conform, if Allah had to conform to the matter that he's creating this matter, then that would necessarily mean changing the condition of the agent. That's what he's saying. Now let's go to the third point. He says, to humans, the past, the present, the future have distinct connotations and importance. But for God, time is itself is a product of his actions, and he's not bound or limited by it. Okay? And he actually says that this time framework, it only applies to humans. Okay, so it's very, very clear. For him, there's no discernible difference in clarity or intimacy between the before and after. So here, Shaykh Hatem is emphasizing that time applies to humans, not Allah. So very, very clear. Okay, then he says, thus God does not exist within time, nor is he bound by it. Time itself is a result of God's unceasing actions and perpetual agency. So he's negating time to be time restricting God, or God is bound by time or anything like that. So he's refuting that concept. And then I'm going to show you a video just now, and inshallah we'll end it.
The initiation of a certain action does not necessarily indicate a change or an acquisition of a new attribute of the essence. His power is eternal, but its actualized deliverances happen in succession. So that's the main concept here. The power is eternal. You cannot tell me that because I am saying God creates one thing after another, that this is a change in his essence. No, it's not a change in his essence. It has been eternally most powerful. The actualized deliverances of that power are timed, and that is not a problem. They come in succession, but we still don't need to say تحل فيه الحوادث, because that is not, or emergent events subsist in him, because that's not what the revelation used.
So that should be very, very clear that Shaykh Hatem was supposed to be a scholar who's representing Ibn Taymiyyah's view, and these guys look up to him. He's actually refuting them. He's going against them. So what's happening here now is Abdul Rahman and Muslim Metaphysician, Jake Muslim Metaphysician, they're going against their own scholars, their own creed. So this should be made very clear that these guys are isolated in their view. And this isolation in their view, it's not just simply difference of opinion here. What happens here is they are committing an act of kufr, disbelief. And unfortunately, let me show you guys. So if you guys can see here, they have big channels, and unfortunately what's happening is they are basically promoting disbelief amongst the people. If you see this was actually the video where he has done this, and I'll share the clip with you after this, where you will see where he has actually explicitly committed an act, or well, he said a statement of act of kufr. Now, you can play gymnastic with them statements and start to play around, but these statements are so clear cut of kufr, like as we talked about, that within Allah there cannot be no change, there cannot be no beginning, and whatnot, because Allah is eternal. So we spoke about all that, and now you'll see explicit words which are clear kufri statements. Now it's for the scholars to then give the verdict upon this, and I've actually spoken to some scholars. I've heard them speak about this issue. They highlighted that this is an act of kufr. They've highlighted this, but so there are scholars out there, they have highlighted that this is an act of kufr. And so my intention today, primary intention, is to refute this ideology, so people don't get misguided, especially 2,000 people who watched this. Okay, 2,000 plus people that watched this. And the same thing with Abdul Rahman. He was also featuring within this video. I'll play the clip just now. I'll play the clip where he actually has said the statement of kufr, and then inshallah we'll end.
And we believe that his actions subsist with him. They're not external realities. An action is not something that happens outside of him, right? It is an occurrence within his essence. It is something that is attributed to him, right? And this is what the Mutakallimun would say is hawadith fi dhatillah, meaning recent occurrences or new occurrences that happen within the essence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? We don't have to use that language because Quran and Sunnah don't come with it. We just are using that language simply to explain what the position is according to the terminological use of the Mutakallimun, right?
So the way to resolve this, right? The way I believe to resolve this is if they take this video down and they tell people, look, we had made a mistake here. I think this is the only way that they can solve this and to promote the truth after that. But unfortunately, I don't think they would do that. But this video, inshallah, will serve as a education for those who are, they want to safeguard their iman from false beliefs and from false people who they put forward false ideology from deviance, basically.